Georgia won another game that everyone thought they were going to lose at some point yesterday. 24-20 was the final. Got to give it for Chalai. Georgia's on pace to play as many 4+ Chalai games in a year as they ever have. Normally, Georgia games are boring. Not this year. Excitement all around. Georgia, Kirby Smart and Georgia have taught you this lesson 1,000 times. Yesterday was just 1,001. What is the lesson? It's getting old now. I keep saying the same thing after every Georgia game. The lesson is you got to cut the head off the snake. Until you've cut the head off the snake, it doesn't matter if it's wounded. That doesn't matter. If you've ever killed a snake, you know how to kill it. Cut its head off. Ball game. And everyone keeps wounding Georgia, but they don't cut the head off. And then Georgia bites you in the fourth quarter, and you're sitting there at Neyland Stadium saying, how did they win this game? And you're sitting there down at Auburn saying, how did they win this game? And you're sitting down there in Jacksonville yesterday saying, how? Well, competitive character is how. And being comfortable being uncomfortable is how. Kirby Smart has a really, really good understanding of the team he has here. And that team he has is not dominant. Some of the Georgia teams he's had, there are 2 or 3 or 7 dominant things they can do in a football game. This Georgia team doesn't have all that. It's not a terrible team. It's just not a historically great Georgia team. That doesn't mean you can't win games. How do you have to win them? You got to win them in the margins. So, like you look at a Georgia box score, where are the margins? Here's one of them. Third down, Georgia was 7 of 15. Florida was 2 of 11. Decent edge. They got that field goal right before the half. I thought that was a big deal. That 3rd and 7 they converted late in the game, huge deal. 4 explosive passes for Georgia, 3 of them for Florida. A little bit of a margin there. 20-16 edge on first downs, little bit of a margin there. What I'm saying is there aren't many paper popper stats on this stat sheet here. There aren't any at all, actually. Georgia's not dominating games. They're winning them. See, whether you win 54-20 or 24-20, they give you a win. Now, for those of you who had a Georgia -7.5 ticket, you know that taking a knee at the 1-yard line at the end costs you, but it doesn't cost Georgia the win. And prayers up for anyone who suffered there. We've all been there. Now, I would wish it on my worst enemy, but on people I just dislike, I wouldn't even wish that on them. That's a terrible, terrible thing. They are comfortable being uncomfortable. Georgia, not the losing bettors. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. It is the biggest compliment that I find myself frequently giving to Kirby's teams because, you always have this vision in your mind of, well, if games go the way they're supposed to, Georgia will just win. And that's never the way they prepare. They're always ready. They're ready for a shootout. They're ready for a street fight. They tend to do well in those moments. I felt like this game got discussed under false pretenses, by the way. Because Georgia is like right there in the top 10 or top 5 or whatever they're ranked, and Florida's unranked, and their season's gone off the rails, and they fired their coach. So that creates this perception in your mind that there's this big gap between these teams. There aren't. There's not a big gap between these teams on one given Saturday. The big question for Florida was, are they going to be checked in? I doubted whether they would be. That's why I thought Georgia minus the points may be the right side. We didn't bet it, but that's the way I kind of slightly would have leaned. And look, they took a knee at the 1-yard line at the end, so probably the right side. But point being, Florida was checked in. Florida hadn't mailed anything in. So if you told me nothing more than that on Friday, I would have expected a dogfight in this game because Florida's plenty athletic enough to beat Georgia. So that's not the way the game got discussed. We were on the way back from Dallas yesterday. We'll get back to the video 1 second. Do me one quick favor. Look down. Make sure you're subscribed. Most of you are. If you're not, please do so. It's the way we keep the channel free, we keep the videos coming, and we get to do college football year-round as God intended. All right, as promised, back to the video. And I was looking at the way people were talking about the game as it rolled from third quarter into fourth quarter. People were talking about it like this massive upset was brewing. Like Georgia was a 27-point favorite instead of a 7-point favorite. That this wasn't going to be a massive upset. There was nothing shocking about Florida hanging with them. Look, athletically, Florida had some edges on that field against Georgia yesterday. That wasn't going to be a shock. Georgia's the better team. That's why they're favored by a touchdown, but not 3 touchdowns. We talked about that last week. We said, hey, in the Big Ten, Ohio State's favored by 3 touchdowns over Penn State. Georgia's favored by 1 touchdown over Florida. Now, you can make what you will of that as it compares the Big Ten to the SEC, but as it relates to this game, this wasn't a surprise. I mean, what's Georgia's ceiling right now? Coming out of this game, that's kind of what I think about. They're 7th right now at FanDuel in the title odds. So they keep slipping down the board a little bit because people keep watching them and they keep seeing, oh, Georgia, they're just kind of good, like it's a crime. Georgia's just, they're okay. But, Notre Dame, Oregon, A&M, Alabama, Indiana, Ohio State, all those teams have better odds to win the national title right now than Georgia. I think it's fair to ask, what do they do that is elite? But my follow-up question would be, well, how high is their floor? And I think the answer is it's pretty high. Like, the worst you're going to get out of Georgia is a pretty good performance. Ironically, their ceiling may be lower than it's used to being, but the floor is still way up there. They got a young team, far less experience collectively. So, look, it's not an overly dynamic team. But they've got November to hit their stride, whatever that's going to be. And they'll be a tough out, come what may. It's like Texas is going to go in there in a couple of weeks. They got a big letdown spot this week, by the way. Not that they're usually prone to that, but I just want to warn everyone. They go to Mississippi State Saturday. State just got their first conference win under Levy, so it's a letdown spot for them as well. For those of you who are under any kind of false pretense that this is going to be some blowout game, Georgia's favored by 7.5 at Mississippi State. 11 a.m. kickoff, so they got a little lucky with that. But they got Texas coming to Athens the week after. So I'm just throwing a little trip to Starkville in between games against Florida and Texas. Interesting. I will continue to say this because it's the way thus far that I plan on remembering the 2024 Georgia or 2025 Georgia team. It is so obvious Kirby Smart loves that team. He knows it's not his most talented team. The ceiling's not as high. I mean, look at this lineup. They win by 3 at Tennessee after Tennessee misses a game-winning field goal. They got beat by 3 against Bama. They trailed Auburn at the half and looked dead in the water, came from behind to win that one. They beat Ole Miss, even though Ole Miss scored on like their first 6 drives. And then they lost. They won yesterday, close games, just all a bunch of close games. That's the profile of this team this year. But no one's cut the head off the snake yet. No one's knocked them out yet. Bama beat them, but you can lose 1 or 2 games now. So no one's knocked them out yet. Just be interested to see, like, come playoff time, how do they match up? Because that's still a really good roster. How do they match up?